Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to come on and commune in these energies. It feels like something really big has happened just recently. I know for me, I'm on the other side of one of the biggest alchemies of my life, and everything feels completely different right now. And of course, last night we had an unexpected X flare. So what I've always said about X flares, if you've been watching these readings, is that they tend to chunk off energy. So if you're in the middle of a process or something's been brewing for a while and you might even feel like you're kind of stuck, or something needs to move, when the X flare comes in, it moves it, right? So I feel like we're in this completely different space now energetically in terms of the collective energies that we've been clearing. And so for me, there was this huge situation that came up. My son was staying with my daughter and I up in town here over this past week. And what's interesting is that there's so much to this. I'm just trusting that it's going to come out the way that it needs to. But within my family, with my kids and my kid's dad, we're working the Lyran Orion collectives. And so this has become clear to me over the last 2 years that part of what I'm doing here is, at least at this point in my human evolution, is working those collectives and restoring those timelines. And so, of course, we all have hybridization. We all, these programs happened a very, very, very long time ago. So whether we know it or not, we all got a little Draco in us, and so, but some of us more than others. And so in my family constellation, my kid's dad and my daughter have a large proportion of that kind of draconian dragon energy, which is a lot about control, a lot about domination, a lot about, just very, very intense. They're fighters. They want to dominate and control. And my son, I would always joke that we were like fae, we kind of just, we didn't want to argue, like let bygones be bygones, it doesn't matter if we disagree. We just want to garden and basically just be at peace and be left alone. Okay. So it's really interesting because my son has been, reconfiguring, redefining, reorganizing his relationship with his father at the same time that I've been doing that with my daughter. Okay. And so this week I really, really saw the patterns of what's going on the deeper levels around that. And it's connected to the energies of that control energy and the domination and on all of this, which was connected way back to the Orion and Lyran wars and again the breeder programs and the hybridization programs and all of this. That's part of the energy that's being cleared right now at this point in human evolution because of the light quotient that we're at now. And we were coming off of this, all sort of like the precursor to this situation for me was after we had all those geomagnetic storming. So that's what we were talking about in the last reading, and I almost feel like that was a little bit of a premonition. I don't know if you're relating. I know some of you have already talked to, and you're very much on the same, had a very similar experience over the last week. But we were talking about in that last reading, like needing to pull back your energy and protect yourself, protecting the higher timeline. There was we were talking about getting down to the root, some of the like very deep buried issues that we couldn't see and how things were feeling really confusing. And, you didn't really know what you were working with, but there was this intensity going on. Now looking back, it's like, we were just like dipping our toes in the water. This last week was again that freight train type of energy that I felt with the solar flare last night, but it was like that throughout the whole week. And so really, really, really intense. And when my son came, he came with his father, and I could, just as the car pulled up, I could feel from the energy that they were in a fight. They were in a fight. And so they were in a fight when they came in the house, and they were in a fight in the house, and we kind of diffused the situation. But the summary is just that my son is absolutely done with this dynamic. Okay. And so 2 days later, we're all here. My ex-husband went back down to the desert area, and it was just me and my kids and my adult kids. And my daughter and I get in this really huge fight, probably the worst we've ever been in, at least the worst we've ever been in with the level of consciousness and clarity that I have now. So there was all this decoding going on where I said to my son, like, Akaya, what are the odds? Like, you and your dad, we're in this huge fight. They haven't been in it. It was the worst fight they've ever had. They haven't really been in a fight in a very long time. And then then my daughter, the same thing. So we were seeing the patterns, and I was reading the energy, how it was very much about a clearing, and very much about working with the energies which were no longer like thou shalt not pass. You can't engage anymore. And so for he and I, it's like we can't get sucked into that sort of that game, that dance, that frequency. We can't do it anymore. So we're figuring out how to maneuver in a way that clears the pattern, really, that doesn't invite to the dance, that doesn't engage. And so we were really supporting each other this weekend, where and it just felt like this divine timing. So I kept saying, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's in the astrology. I don't know why this is happening right now, but I knew it was collective. Not that everybody would be feeling that same thing or the intensity of what I was feeling, but definitely something around sort of the buck stops here with that type of energy, very much connecting to the Lyran and Orion Ors, the hybridization, the breeder programs. It's like we're reclaiming. So we were talking about this last time too, with the Fey realm and with the organic timeline. We're claiming the organic timeline. We're claiming it back. And so those of us that are that signed up to be the ones, and this is what I can see in my family, it's like we are constellation. We came in as a little pod. We're working collective energies together. Some people are playing the catalysts, and some people are playing the alchemists, and those roles have switched throughout the years. But it was very, very, very clear to me, even while being in the midst of some really, really intense triggers and alchemy and intensity, and feeling very, very, talk about the moon card and crawling through the mud. It was crawling through the sewer. It was very, very intense. And yet having that support. The other thing that my son and I had, he was really playing, he's the most divine masculine being that I know right now. He's definitely had his, the thing about my son and I, it's like the lion, the Lyrans, we fight primal, we fight like animals, so there's that, and we've both had our darkness in that realm. So, but at this phase in the game, my son is really come into his divine energy. And so we had that polarity between masculine and feminine. Also, he's a Cancer and I'm a Capricorn. So we had that polarity as well. We had the earth and the water, or the earth and the water. And so there was a lot of anchoring of energy. So I'm watching this whole thing happening, and really, really, really intense. So I know that's collective. I know that there's something going on, some big, huge release, some big, huge clearing. And then right on the heels of that, came this X flare, which just sort of washed things away. So I want to read into the energy and see see where we're at right now, see what messages come through around this. Even if you're not relating to this personally, it is very much in the collective field. So I'm going to jump into the cards. There's other things that I'll probably end up talking about that will trigger me. Trigger my memory. Spirit has your back. Okay. And that's very much what I was feeling in this very gnarly situation that, and that's also a 23 adding up to a 5. So a card of change, and there's that crown on his head, that sovereignty. And so that's what my son was saying. He's like, I'm not making this change. It's not like a personal fight between him and his father. He's like, it's about frequency. It's about mission. He's a very mission oriented person. He's very aligned with the new earth energies and with what's coming. He's very into gardening and self-sustainability. And he has all these projects, and he's working for the new world. And so for him, it's like he can't, and I feel the same way, we can't be leaking our energy on old games and old energies and getting sucked into them. So this happening in a very personal way where there are families and there's a lot of enmeshment and precedences that have been set and it's like trying to stop a freight train, right? It's trying to stop a freight train. And yet at the same time, that reminder that these types of patterns that we're unraveling and correcting, there's a lot of guidance in that. So this came up the last time too, where it's like, you're never alone. There's a lot of support, this type of thing. What's interesting, I was reflecting on this morning, and so I've talked about this before, like where my galactic aspects have come on slowly over the years, and the first one to come in was the Syrian energy. And I was listening to this woman. It came through all these different synchronicities, but one of those was I was listening to this woman named Leah Scallon. So she's, I think she's Australian, but she's living in Ireland, which is interesting because I just talked with a friend from Ireland, and he just recently moved back there, and he was in Cork. So it's just interesting, this Celtic Irish energy that's kind of floating in here. But she has this, she does, has a, I don't know what you would call it, but songs of Sirius. So she sings light language through the Syrian galactic signature, and she sings in that language. So I had a couple CDs of hers, and there was one that was, was around the time after I lost custody of my kids, and there was, a lot of the drama and the darkness of that time. And I was listening to a recording that she had done around grief, and it was all light language, there was just codes. And while I was listening to it, I remember I was standing at my stove, and I was like stirring something, and I got the download, and I saw how the four of us had agreed to come in to do this. And I didn't know as much as I know now. That was like 15 years ago or something like that. But so I didn't really understand the big picture, but I saw that we had agreed to take these different roles, and that my role was through the heart, and my role was to lose custody and to have my heart broken open so that I could remember something. I didn't know what I was remembering at the time. I was going to awaken to something, and it was going to ripple out and awaken the whole family. And I was in tears, and I was crying, and I was just, and that knowing never left me. It was like like this, spirit has your back. So this type of thing, these big picture understandings coming in, where you're able to decode these really kind of crunchy situations that some of us might be in. And so now, many years later, the energy that's been coming online, the galactic energy the last 2 years, has been the Lyran energy for me, and those memories, and a lot of the, a lot with that. And so this morning, I was standing in my kitchen in the exact same spot, and I was having a very similar download about how they took on that Orion Draco energy, and my son and I, this Lyran energy, and how we were working those collectives, and we were a fractal of the whole, and we had planned this, and there was this huge like the release valve, going on right now for my son and his father, and for me and my daughter, just this explosion of energy so that everything could be up on the table. So remember, again, we're talking about everything that's been hidden coming up on the table so that you can see it and you can sort through it. And even when it has like, galactic origins and just like lifetimes and lifetimes, or eons of pain and suffering and conflict, you're still able to move through it. You're still able to move through it. So I saw that very, very clearly. Just those galactic origins and how we chose to do this, and that we were all allies, and that my son and I were correcting this pattern for them. We were in service to them, but we were also in service to the timeline, to the organic timeline. And we had to stay true and preserve our energy and not leak our energy in that way, so that we could anchor the true template. And as I was having that download, and same thing as like 15 years ago, I'm standing in the exact same spot with tears down my face, and I look down on the floor, and there's this little piece of like paper that said, it's like almost like I had a collage at some point, because I have done a lot of collages, but I must have had a collage at some point that had the words "thank you." And so right on the floor, out of nowhere, I don't know how it appeared there, but it was just these big thick letters, "thank you," on the floor, as confirmation, so again, more tears, and I could just feel all of our souls, even though there was so much anger and so much fighting and so much conflict and so much like just like reaction over the last, and during those fights over the last few days, just one each, but it was really intense. There was this clarity and this higher vision. The eagle flies above and sees very clearly. You could see the bigger picture and why it had to happen. And that's what happened to me before, where I could see my kid's dad and I on the higher timelines, in the higher ages, choosing to come in and to play these roles. In fact, he had said to me, and I remembered this as well, he was reminding me how we had an agreement where he said to me, "I'm going to do something really horrible, and you're going to hate me. You're going to hate me but then you have to forgive me, okay? You have to forgive me, okay? Long ago. And of course, I completely forgot, and he completely forgot. But once we accomplished that, and we did come to that completion and forgiveness, we both remembered. I might have told this story recently because I've been talking a lot about forgiveness. But again, that higher view where you remember that all of your perpetrators or all of your catalysts or all of your abusers are playing their role to help you to play your role, and that it's all in service. Again, everything's in service to the light. And again, spirit having your back, and those little magical messages coming through, like with a piece of paper and like that, those memories and the song, just really a huge amount of support, because we're working with really, 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 really deeply entrenched and enmeshed energies. A lot of us right now, even if we don't realize it, if you are feeling really overwhelmed, or you're having conflict, or you're feeling like you need to pull back your energy, like I really feel like I need to pull back my energy from the town. And that was one of the things in speaking with my friend. He lived in New Mexico as well, and he would come here. He was a house sitter for me, actually. That's how I met him. And so he would spend time in this town as well. And so and he was here right before he left and moved back to Ireland. And so he was telling me about how the frequency is completely different there, that it's not how it is here. It wasn't how we were both experiencing it in the town that I'm at in New Mexico, where there's just a lot of heaviness and a lot of like entities. You can feel entities around everyone, to the point where I don't want to spend much time downtown. I want to just kind of be in nature and be in my own home more than normal, and just sort of, again, protecting the frequency, protecting the timeline. But he's there with the Fae in Ireland. Speaking of, if you saw that last reading, and he was just talking about how different it feels there, and how that frequency and that energy isn't as intense and as dense there. So that was really, really interesting to hear, and also to be hooking up with somebody that was in a different dimensional space because of their location. So something about that as well, and just really remembering that sometimes a lot of the density that we're feeling is specific. It's locationally specific, and remembering that and that it's not even ours. We might be thinking that it's ours. We might be thinking that it's everywhere and that it's the world, but there's like little pockets of density, and doing what you need to, and that can be true within our families as well. We don't have to be around energies and behaviors and frequencies that are draining us. And in fact, right now, there seems to be a huge amount of guidance of preserving that, even if you feel like you have to change a dynamic with somebody or shut them out, or it can be a heartache. My daughter and I are actually very, very, very close. We've been kin for eons, but right now it's very important for humanity and for this evolution and for our individual and collective and galactic evolutions that we listen and we play our roles differently. And I'm the one that has to change it, right? Which is interesting. I'm the parent, but my son is the son, and he's the one that has to change it. So playing our different roles, really, really listening to those, again, those spirit messages and what we need to change and how we need to do it, because it's very important. There's a lot at stake, and then we get the Hermit. So there's a deep soul, soul communion card, where it's like, this is a direct command from the higher self, a direct command from the soul, and we can't fail this initiation. We can't shirk on it. We can't stay in comfort. We can't stay unconscious and allow these patterns to continue to roll out and run out, because again, we're fractals of the larger energies, and we're working the larger energies. We're working the collective, and all of us that are hearing these calls from deep within to correct the energies in ourselves and in the relationships around us, however that's playing out for you. It feels imperative. It feels very imperative right now. The other thing that's happening for me, I mentioned last time that my daughter and I are rehoming our cat. So there was that whole whatever is not in alignment needs to go. Obviously, that's including patterns as well, patterns of behavior and enabling behavior and this type of thing. But the catio that we had built for the cats we used greenhouse material, because we just had it laying around. My kid's dad had it laying around on the ranch, and so he offered it to us. So we used that to build it. So now the cats are leaving, and I basically have this like sort of greenhouse in my back area, which is quite small, and I have a hose pipe there. So I'm going to garden there. So that was a lot of what my son, when we weren't processing about this like shift in relationship, shift in engagement with this sort of like Draco energy that's been running in our family for all this time. We were talking about gardening, and so he's gardening, he's planting his gardening, He's building the soil, he's creating the compost. They had animals, he has all this stuff. I have this small little yard in town, but I have a different climate than him and different water. So we're going to grow different things. And, once he has all the excess of compost, he'll give me compost, and so we're going to trade veg. So I've always said to myself and to others that I'm not going to do anything out of fear or out of like a linear, projection. I'm going to do it when there's synchronicity and divine timing and flow and excitement. And so that's what's been happening for me this week. And the excitement between my son and I in our gardening and our building and our self-sustainability, but also the leaving of the cats and the perfect setup, the perfect setup. So it's like, just again, Spirit has your back, that guidance. But I'm also noticing that I'm being pushed into position to create sustainability for myself, to grow my own food, and starting to create a network of trading and collaboration starting with my son, but opening. So I feel like something is really shifting in the realm, basically, with these patterns that it's like, no mas, we cannot do this anymore. Even with our most enmeshed, beloved family members, we have to turn this train around and have these boundaries and go through whatever upset and trials and all the things to turn this around, and also, the guidance. I know a lot of people already have their gardens. I could never garden because my garden space is on the north side, and I just couldn't grow many things. And now I have a bunch of perennials, and I can't. It's hard to amend the soil because everything is sort of matted in. But it's happening now, and I'm noticing that. I'm noticing that. And as someone who reads and is very connected to collective energies, just again reading the collective energies through my own life. So paying attention to that. Maybe some of you are also relating, where you're again hearing the call to really, really make this higher timeline and all the actions connected to it the priority and the only priority. There's a quickening. There's a quickening right now. And with the X flare, I feel like it was more of chunking off some of that old energy that's leaving on all the different levels, getting closer and closer and closer to home. Oh my God, wow. So I have been getting this card in my personal readings in the morning, but in different decks, because I don't use this deck. I just use a couple decks for my personal read in the morning. So the card is the World, so another major arcana. And let me get that to focus for you. This is a really beautiful card. See the roots down there? So we were talking about the roots, getting on the root level last week, and the red. They also kind of look like snakes. So there's a little bit of that underworld energy. We're going down into the underworld to untangle these roots that are these last of these roots. So we were talking about that too with the sessions where we're getting to root issues, but I was talking about extracting some of the nanotech and some of the implants in these energies that are embedded in our bodies. And it's like a program. And I feel that's what happens with my kid's dad and my daughter. It's like a program that gets clicked on. And it's connected, way back, way back. They can't help it. And I have a version of that in me as well. But it's a little bit different. And so again, the removal of these programs, and again, the boundaries that we're setting for people that are playing these programs. And again, that compassion where they can be our greatest perpetrators in those moments. And yet, they need our assistance, they need our assistance and that compassion for that. They're also playing their role as the catalyst to empower us into our own completion, where we're no longer, because if you're a giver, if you're a giver and your problem is that you don't have enough boundaries and you let people walk all over you, then, you need to complete that, to have those boundaries so you can be the pure transmission of service to others, right? Without having it kill your light and destroy you or damage you, so that you can't stand in your sovereignty, where I was talking about that, having the circuitry intact so that you can have your full transmission, that you can be in service the way you're intended, right? And knowing when to really pull the plug. Sometimes, for a while, I really had to be really patient and put my life on hold for my daughter because she was in severe crisis. And now she's not. So it's like I need to kind of kick her out of the nest in a sense and not allow her to lean on me so much, because there's a real energy suck, and there can be a lot of shrapnel that I get trapped in. And so there's this completion energy with these patterns where, if you are playing the role of sort of the catalyst, then, you might be finding that people are withdrawing their energies from you, but it's for you and it's for the world, again, quite literally for the world and beyond. And if you are the giver and the healer and the alchemist, then the boundary piece is really up and completing a lot of those cycles and patterns. I want to get this to focus. Let me get me out of the way. There it is. So the fairies, there is the Fae realm again in the tree, that assistance, again, the reparation and the rising of the organic template. It's shown in the elemental world. It's shown in the interdimension with the interdimensional beings. It's also rising within us, those of us that are coded to anchor and lead this way. This, again, hearing the call, and it's very, very much supported. So a little bit of a similar message, but it's just deeper now. It's just deeper, and we're in this sort of completion energy. A lot of us, I think, and I would love to hear. Please share if you don't have to share a lot, whatever you're guided to. Don't share anything, of course, but I'm curious if other people went through a really huge alchemy and sort of completion energy that's just knocked your fucking socks off this week, the past few days. Yeah, because it feels so collective to me, and it feels like something really happened in the field and that everything is different now. Again, that confirmation coming through with the world card right now. And again, the reference from last week to the roots and that darker energy that's been unseen, and then the Fae realm as well. So there's a collective rise of the organic and everything that has been suppressed and dominated. So that's what we were talking about 2 or 3 readings ago with the intense triggers and a lot of the those triggers leading back to the Atlantean times, and now this time it connected for me further back to the Lyra and Orion. But it's the same energy of domination and hijacking, and the breeder programs and messing with our genetics and messing with our original codex. Same thing with the AI. The AI, especially if you're using art or using it to write, or I had somebody that took an image of me, a photo of me, and AI'd it, and that's what I was referring to 2 readings ago. It feels okay to talk about it now, but and I had to say, oh, please don't use that, because I can't feel my codes in there, right? So it's that same energy of and it's innocent, so much has been normalized, and that's what happened with my daughter. So many of these patterns have been normalized for her. The same time, she came in to work that energy, so I don't see anybody as a victim, nor myself. I came in to work this energy as well on the opposite polarity, but again, the interference with free will, the interference with process. So it's this same energy that I've been talking about. Talked about it two readings ago. Last time it was like we're kind of like, oh, we're going down the slide, we're going down into some, we're getting down into the roots, and then now it's like, okay, you've gone down to the roots, you've completed something, good job, you were destined to do that at this time. 2 major arcana right in a row. That's always that node point energy, where it's like, the book, the soul book, where it's like, okay, we're on chapter 5, we're on page 232, this is when this happens, that's this huge shift, huge shift in the timeline, it feels. So, and then with this flare, so it'll be interesting. I'm gonna keep reading, see what else it says. It'll be interesting to see what unfolds from here. Wow, the Queen of Swords, yeah. So there she is with her boundaries. And that is the Queen of Swords. She doesn't mince her words. She sees right through the bullshit. And, she's just no mas. So that's the energy that a lot of us, if you're relating to this, the energy that you're in, again, the soul directive and wrapping up, a completion, wrapping up, the times when you couldn't do this, when you were sort of a pushover, or you just went into cognitive dissonance, or you went into denial, or you didn't want to call a spade, or you would gaslight yourself, and then you would just kind of diffuse your power. You would diffuse your purpose for being here and not doing that anymore. So yeah, that's really beautiful. If you have been in this energy and you felt a little overwhelmed, and just, because there were a lot, I was sharing what was going on with me with a friend of mine, and she was paralleling, she had gone through a very similar thing, but I was so in it, I was just so in it, and we ground together. So I was sharing with her to ground, and what she said to me is like, as I was listening to you, as she was listening to me, she was seeing and feeling that I had gone through many different timeline course corrections within like a 3-day period. She saw like 3 of them. And so that kind of thing where it can be really confusing, where you don't really know where you're at. So if that's where you're at, may this reading be helpful to you, because there is a lot of confirmation of the deep soul call that you heard and you listened to, and then that passing of the initiation through your boundaries, also a confirmation to keep up those boundaries. You might feel guilty, like for me, and I was talking about this when I was talking about those Atlantean timelines and the intense triggers with my daughter, where it's really hard for me to sort of like leave her to her alchemy because of that guilt that I felt from the past. And then, it just created this dynamic where I was giving too much, and allowing her to walk all over me and to have that awful Draco energy come at me in really disrespectful ways. And so, but yeah, it can be sometimes it's the people that we love and want to protect the most that we have to turn it around and do the 180, where we have really, really, really clear boundaries. So just if you were like me, where that was hard for you, this being confirmation that the boundaries are the path, the boundaries are the way, the boundaries are the highest service, the cutting out, to whatever degree it is. Obviously with our families, sometimes we have to cut people out, but often it's just maneuvering differently, Wow. The sacrifice, that's exactly right. And that's exactly how it feels. Also, this is a 44. So that's that template. That's that grounding of the new template. And it's like you have to sacrifice something to come into alignment, to have the healing, to have the stability, to have the true template. And so that's kind of how it feels for me. I'm sacrificing a deep friendship and playfulness that I have with my daughter. I have to protect myself. I have to pull back my energy. I can do a little bit of that, but there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake, and I have to get down here. I have to do these things. And so I have to sacrifice sort of a very pleasant thing in my life, to correct this energy. And I have some grief and some sadness. And yet I know when it starts, 'cause she's on a road trip. She was invited. And that was the other thing after the fight, I was just in my room, like feeling all of this, just like, oh my God, how do I correct this? How do I do this? And I was just praying. And while I was in there and while I was praying, her uncle called her from Morocco and invited her and my brother. They had planned to go, so he wanted to finalize the tickets. So there was that, there's this sort of like, because she needs to branch out, she needs to do more, she needs to, just get out of the nest, and then that same night she was invited on a road trip with some friends up to Colorado Springs. And so I was like, yes, go for a long time, so she isn't back yet, so. And I know when we do kind of slip into this new configuration, it's going to be, and these cards are reassuring me too, it's going to be graceful. It's going to be graceful. It's not going to feel so much like this because of this world card. So yeah, I'm really curious if people are relating to this. I'm speaking of it in quite a specific way, a way that's specific to me, but these energies I feel are being woven in different ways. So it might be applying to you, some boundary, some clarity that you have to have that feels like you're losing something. And yet it's necessary. It's necessary for a completion within your history, your soul history, your mission, what you're here for, within your lineage. We're clearing our lineages. We're completing something, and the time is now. It's imperative, and we have a lot of support. But also, this is the big guns. This is the top guy. It's like, yeah, Spirit has your back, but also Spirit is putting the pressure on you. You can't get out of this, right? You gotta go the whole way. Okay. Let's see where we're at. About a half hour. Okay, cool. So I'm going to do one more in this row, and then I'm going to go down below. Oh, wow. Okay, hollow bone. I really love this card. And it is a number 10. So there's another number of completion. Isn't that so beautiful? It's so New Mexican too, with the feathers and the hawk feather and the whatever those other feathers are. They almost look like pheasants, like grouse or something. I don't know what that is. Anyway, eagle, maybe. Is that an eagle? I don't know. And anyway, yeah, and so hollow bone, and that's how I was last night when that energy came in, and I just had to like empty myself out and open myself up. I have learned, from 4 years ago when I first started going through this, where I would just like resist and go into anxiety and Google and what's going on, and this time it's just like, just open and allow it to have its way with you. And just, and I did have anxiety running through my body, and I just reminded myself of the truth. And there was that surrender, and that just emptying out, where it was like, whatever the outcome is, everything is divine. Everything comes from all that is. There's no victim, there's no wrong, there's no catastrophe. Whatever is happening, whatever is going to happen is part of this transformation. It's part of this change that we're going through. It's just to completely surrender, and there's that teachability as well, as where it's like we're not grasping to what we think needs to happen, or we're just allowing things to flow through to purify us, to guide us. Again, this guidance, allowing ourselves to be empty. And when you're in fear, then you can't hear the guidance. You can't allow yourself to be moved in the way that you need to be moved. You can't allow that teachability, right, as it says here. You contract, and then the energy gets stuck, and then you get stuck. And so the best thing you can do when you're afraid is to just relax. And my mantra is always, even if it's like, if I'm a fear of getting hurt, like death or something, or somebody else, it's like death comes from God too. Death is part of the symphony. There's a divine timing, there's a soul plan. And so just remembering that everything is the symphony, and everything is whatever anybody is experiencing is part of what they signed up to experience, even if it's death and leaving, or even if it's something really tragic. We don't know what knots people are unraveling, and we're able to see it more and more, and especially with stuff like this and those downloads you might get about the bigger picture. But even the little snippets of the storyline that we have, there's always more that we can't see. So just trusting the process, and trusting the unraveling, and remembering that everything is actually one in the unified field. Everything makes sense, and there's nothing ever wrong. And even the horrible things that might be happening in our personal lives, or on the world scene, or the things that we're fearing up ahead, it's part of what needs to happen. It's what needs to happen in order for things to come into that alignment where we're at in the shift of the ages, where everything that's rising. Again, this completion is collective. We're coming into this completion energy. And again, all of the realms that have been hidden, all of the things that have been hidden and entangled underneath are coming back online. That includes our activated DNA. That includes our psychic abilities. That includes our memories. That includes the interdimensional beings, as well as the darkness and the things inside of us that need to be let go of and cords snipped, which is her. That's her job. She's the psychic surgeon that takes her sword and goes in and cuts loose all the roots that shouldn't be growing anymore, right? And that being directed by our higher selves, trusting all of this process. Always that message, but it's a message that's worth saying over and over and over again, because in the rest of the world, the message is one of despair, and even the agenda. A lot of people are talking about the agenda, different versions of the agenda, and they might be talking about it in a very fourth dimensional way that just looks very bleak. It's like, okay, we're unveiling the fourth dimensional agenda, and here it is, and that's it. It's like, so it's worth, on the 3D level, it just looks like crap and fear and anxiety, and on the 4D level it looks like agenda. But if we take it higher, if we take it eagle's view, then we can acknowledge that, and there's a perfection to it all, and that everything is in service to the light. And I think it's so important, at least that some of us, if we're seeing that, to say it, because a lot of people aren't. They're kind of leaving you with dead ends, leaving you with energy that can make you very anxious. It's wonderful to see through the agendas. It's wonderful to be smart and accurate and perceptive in those ways. And yet that's just one-dimensional frequency. It's just part of the story. It's the story of that which has gotten separate and has an agenda, but there's a greater in the wholeness. In the wholeness, when you put that puzzle piece back in, it has its place too. It has its place too. And of course, some of that disclosure being to awaken people to see, to shake loose, to shake loose some of these roots. But again, always bringing it back to the larger plan. Okay, so speaking of that, let me go underneath and see what we get underneath the eagle spirit. Okay. I've been so hot. Alora Hazel was the post that I saw as soon as I went on. I was about to check and search to see if there was solar weather, and it was the first thing I saw. And she was saying she woke up super hot. And so I've been really, really hot all day long, even though it's a cooler day. I think it's only in the 60s here today. And I'm just like sweating all this Kundalini energy, just stuff burning off. The other thing that happened, this morning for me is that this used to happen in the beginning with the solar energy. I felt like and I'm still feeling this, but I've gotten kind of used to it. I feel like my electrons are moving differently, or like there's like this hum or this buzz in my body. Have you felt that, or are you feeling it now? And it's like a vibrating, and it used to really scare me. I thought that something was wrong, and like, oh God, but now it's like I know it's indicative of something really huge being burnt off, and like a timeline jump and a timeline collapse. Again, this being confirmed with these cards here, really, really huge, deep energies. Again, the roots, but also the completion. And then here we have the 10 as well, and energy moving through the hollow bone, energy moving through, pushing things out. So the card that we get underneath the eagle has your back is fortune. So that's Lakshmi, and is that Lakshmi? Yeah, that's Lakshmi. 7, 8, 9. So there's a 9, and I don't really have anything to say about that in this moment. Again, the oranges matching me. That seems to happen a lot where I dress. There's an energy that's coming through, the oranges being that creational energy, the spiritual energy, again, the Kundalini energy, moving through and up. And so look at her crown and look at her. And so it, just the fortune and the right timing, and the blessing. So just a reminder of that. I feel really feeling that in this energy, that everything that we just went through, for those of us that did go through that, or even just collectively humanity, if you're feeling the energy really different, this is why, because some of these big moves are being made. Some of these things are being unplugged. Again, the hell divers, we went down in and, got those roots up. And that was the other thing. My son and I did a lot of weeding this week together as well, which is symbolic, of course. And so getting these roots up, it's changed the playing field. It's changed the energetic signature of the realm. That's what I feel. The energetic signature is different. I feel really different within myself. I know that it's collective. Okay, so then there's this fortune. So it's like paving the way. Spirit has our back. It's what it's all about. It's what it's all for. Yeah. And not to say that it's over, it's there's obviously things are still going to be getting worse. Wow. Look at this. This is so encouraging. So we have the 4 of Wands, and it's a card of celebration, also of union, things which were separate coming back together. Yeah, so a real harmonization. This is encouraging for me with my family when there's a lot of fighting and sort of pushing away, but not really. Nobody's really mad at each other. It's like all of us understand this. All of us in my family, we've had these conversations. All of us, we see the bigger view. We've seen the bigger picture. We know the roles that we play. So even as we're can be unconscious in the drama, or we're playing our role that we're meant to play, we're also seeing and we're watching. It's like there's this one big eye that we're all kind of watching through, and it's really sacred path together. It's really, really interesting. So again, it's really about this union energy, bringing that which was separate back together. As you go through these trials, and again, those messages coming through spirit, where you're seeing the bigger picture, it's like you're elevating in your consciousness, you're elevating in your frequency. So even though you're playing your role and you're going through your trials and you're being the catalyst or being catalyzed, there's still an awareness of what it's all about. And why? Because this energy is becoming more palpable on the planet. Again, as these energies rise. Oh, so my ex-husband, we were all hanging out that first day, and we went downtown and we got this pizza, and we were sitting there, and he starts telling me about, like, he has this he planted a lot of trees on the ranch, and a lot of the neighbors aren't watering their trees anymore because of the water and just the heat and all these things. But he's like, I can't not water it. I can't not water it. And he's like, and there's something really magical going on. He's like, I don't even want to talk about it. He's like, it's like the Fey realm. I've never heard him talk about this in 20 years. And he was all like, like amazed, and like he couldn't believe what was going on. And he wouldn't tell me. He didn't want to like disturb anything. And I was like, are you okay if I go there and feel it for myself? Which I didn't do, because my son and I were busy working on projects and cleaning the house and doing and powwowing and anchoring this timeline. But again, it was like another synchronicity around this, just confirmation, as these things are rising. I don't really remember why I was saying that. I got pretty absorbed in that story, but it was definitely connected to this, the things coming back together. Okay. So, and that coming out underneath the Hermit. Yeah. So that's that soul level, that soul retrieval, everything that has been cast out, everything that was fragmented, everything that looked separate, coming back together on the soul level, where you're having, like she has that raven. There's the live, is that a raven up there? I can't tell. It's black. That might be raven. Anyway, the raven skull around her neck. So the ravens always represent you've earned the right to more magic, and it's like a higher consciousness. So I think that's actually what I was talking about. Before I got distracted, earning the right to see more magic, earning the right to feel more magic. And so, maybe seeing the Fey realm, maybe interacting with these beings in dream time or in real life, or feeling them if you're not seeing them, right? Or accessing more of yourself, these things, the right to more magic. And especially as we pass these initiations and we hold strong amidst the denser energy, even when it's really enmeshed, and and with people that you can't just cut out of your life, you gotta maintain it even when they're around you, still playing that, right? It takes a lot of discipline. But again, in going through these trials and these initiations, we're accessing more of ourselves and more of the truth of reality. So it's just the way through. It's how it needs to happen, both in our personal lives and in the world. Things need to get really bad so that, again, these roots can come up and we can see them. As we see them, we're seeing this, right? It's a symbol of there's the higher frequency that's coming online and being seen, and there's the lower frequency that's coming online and being seen. And so it's all there. It's sifting through it all, embracing it all, bringing it all back together, and not resisting anything. That doesn't mean that we're not setting boundaries around things, but we're not. Resistance often comes in the form of like denial or cognitive dissonance, or just like disassociating. It's like staying really super present, where you're like, okay, I accept that this is what's going on, and I'm holding this transformation in all these butterflies, like I know what this is about. It's like she's holding these lotuses, it's, or whatever that, I think it's probably a lotus, but they're holding these things, and they're the same color as well. There's a lot of messages and symbols in here where we're holding on to what it actually is, right? We're knowing it's about this unification, right? It's the way it has to go. It's the way it has to go in the world and in our personal lives. There's that fire, that activation energy as well. Again, the orange, the fire, the heat, the orange. I'm wearing it, activation, life force, reclaiming. I'm noticing the orange. I have this little flicker feather there. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. There's something magical about flicker feathers. The flicker bird. I don't remember what it is. Maybe somebody will tell me. I know one person that sometimes watches these that probably knows, so maybe he'll tell me. Anyway, okay. So let me move on here. See what we get underneath the world card. Again, remembering that all of the deep treks, the deep soul treks is about bringing things back online, bringing things back into wholeness. So underneath the world card, we get the Eight of Pentacles. Yeah, so there it is again, the hard work. There's the orange again. All the hard work that we have to put in to have this completion. So again, don't shy away from it. Don't, again, the cognitive dissonance or the moving away from people. It's okay to have boundaries. Some people you need to move away from because it's like you can't, it's like some people you're assigned to on soul contract, like your family, where it's like you need to you need to go the whole way with them. Some people, it's just an energy leak, and you can't do this kind of deep work with everybody that comes with bullshit behavior. It's like save it for the ones you can't get away from, and that's enough, right? That type of thing. But doing the work and facing it head on, and that's where you pass your initiation, you get that completion, and you get more of yourself. Again, that raven medicine, where you earn the right to more magic, you earn the right to see more of yourself and more of the realms of which had been hidden. But you got to see this stuff first. You got to see that stuff first. You got to do that work. And it's not that anything's wrong. It's not that anything's wrong with the people who are catalyzing you. It's not that anything's wrong with you, that you're back in hell again. It's how it's again pulling back the arrow. It's how we climb our way out. It's how we unify. We go one end to get the other end. And also, if you're really, a lot of us that really get into those higher energies or those blissed out states, you're going to one end of the polarity, you're automatically going to go to the other end. No matter which end you start with, it's going to catapult you to the other. Again, it's all about reclaiming that and having that fortune. But because everything is everything, and I talk about this all the time. I'm just going to say it again, because again, those reminders in a world of duality, where we're always getting the opposite message. It's good to hear these things as much, if not more, than what we hear, in the negative trapping systems, right? Is that everything is It's a unified field. So even that which thinks it's separate and that crawls in the dark is still part of it. It's still necessary. It's still necessary to embrace it and see it. The fourth dimensional realm is becoming visible now. It's because everything is coming up to be unified. So we have to face it all. We have to face it all. We earn the right to more of the good stuff in that way. We have to have it all. Again, the Mother Mary energy that embraces everything, that divine feminine energy that embraces, but also while it has boundaries. So that's what we're going to pull out underneath the Queen of Swords, and see what confirmation, clarification comes underneath that. The rattle. Interesting. Yeah, so the rattle, and that's sort of that like conjuring energy where you're rattling to get in an altered state. You're rattling to get in a state where you can see clearly. You're performing a ritual. You're performing a task to get you in that alignment. Rather than again going into cognitive dissonance or stepping away from the task. You're doing something to. It's like a ritual. That's what it feels like to me. Not a ritual. Yeah, it could be like a ritual, right? Like, and that can include like mantras, or reminders or little things placed around the house to remind you. Like I saved the thank you that I found on my floor, and I put it up where I structure my water so that I see it. I see it to remind me of this clarity that I had. If I'm in a trial again, remembering this is an ally situation. This is a service that we're providing, and we're playing our different roles, seeing that bigger picture and having some sort of something to anchor that. Whether it's a conversation with a friend like I did, to anchor that energy, or an article affirmation like the thank you, or I feel like the flicker feather is going to be sort of a affirmation for me as well. So I'll probably weave that in. Sometimes I'll do, and not a ritual that I learn out of a book, because Jason Estes was talking about this, and it was really interesting because there were a lot of people that had a lot of kickback and they were like really like defensive and stuff. But I think a lot of us are realizing and awakening to being our own source, our own divinity, our own guru, right? Where we're not doing something out of a text or somebody else's ritual or somebody else's healing modality, which I am really feeling this video that I'm going to do is quite soon. I was going to do it today, but I just felt like I really wanted to. That's what keeps happening on the free days. I end up doing a collective reading because there's so much I want to talk about, and then I'm not having time to do this other reading. But I'm also the talk about the energy work. The reason why I brought that up is because listening to your own intuition when you're working with energy or healing modalities, because we want to source from our divinity, not from somebody else's divinity. That's for their channel, right? We have a different channel. And so anyway, I'm going to talk about that more later, but that type of thing, coming up with your own rituals. Like for me, I'm feeling inspired to do something with the flicker feather, and then I have like a tensor ring, and then whatever crystals call to me, and maybe put the thank you in there, but something to just anchor the energy of the realization that I had before my daughter comes home, to anchor it for my son as we maneuver with our Queen of Swords activity, to just, get it in the subconscious, right? Get in the subconscious, even when you might be being attacked or that old energy is playing, where it's like, snapping yourself with the rubber band, when you're trying to quit an addictive habit. It's interesting because, Alora Hazel was talking about, and so Alora is, there's Alora Hazel and Judith Kudsel, there's some of the few people that I always just really resonate with. There are a lot of people putting out a lot of things, and a lot of it just doesn't resonate for me. But Alora is somebody that, oh my gosh, everything that she posts, there's always some synchronicity for me, or we're just on the same, although she has a lot more information. But so what she was saying is that there's a lot collapsing right now, very, 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 very far back patterns around violence and addiction. And so I'm feeling the addiction with this type of energy that we need to set. And again, it's the enmeshment, all the tangled roots, especially if it's through your lineage or through, your children or with your ex-partners or something, where there's, and of course, why? Because they're soul family and you came on to untangle that together. But there can be like that addiction and that codependency where you just unconsciously play it out, right? So she was talking about the addiction and then the violence. And what's interesting is that my kids, the first or second night that he was here, my daughter wanted to watch a movie, and she's like, let's watch Goodfellas. And I was like, oh, I've never seen that. And I remember like my male friends in high school were always doing, well, you think I'm a clown, whatever, East Coast, and And so I was like, yeah, let's watch that. My son wanted to watch it. And it was so freaking violent. And it's like halfway through, I was like, I can't watch this. Like, I can't watch this. Like, I'm done. This is just disgusting. And then the one guy went to jail, and I was like, oh, okay, good. That's kind of validating, like there's some consequences. And anyway, we ended up watching the entire 2.5 hours. And I knew there was something to that. And then like, the fight with it wasn't like violent, like physically, nobody killed anybody, but it was violent energy. There was violent energy being tossed around. So I knew all of that was not a coincidence, And again, like I said, my son and I, we kind of fight primal, like, we could like take somebody down, like, bite their neck, it's like it's different than like manipulation and gaslighting and like over speaking over top of everybody, and so there's that violence energy, those patterns, those sticky things that you really, really, really want to like, conjure the discipline, do the work of breaking, because again, they're fractals. And of course, not everybody has this stuff, like some people don't have that in your history, but there's no shame if you do, because you're somebody that came in, to go into that darker polarity, to work these collectives, to unravel it now at this time, right? So no shame. My daughter was yelling at me. I was trying to walk away because she wouldn't let me speak, and it's like, well, there's no point in talking anymore or yelling anymore if we're not going to be hearing each other. So I was trying to walk outside. I wanted to sit in the sun, put my feet on the earth, and she comes outside, and she won't stop, which is what my ex used to do. And I felt violent. And, all the neighbors are out and everybody can hear me. My neighbor next door, she said her son heard me, like telling my daughter, you got to live somewhere else, it got really bad. And then the other neighbor, so I have like this shame and embarrassment, but at the same time, I'm going to talk about it in front of how many 100 people are going to see this, because it's fucking real, and it's like, that's the thing. It's like, we don't need to like stuff this stuff and feel ashamed and just like suppress it. So it like comes out again, like, let's air it all out on the table, and it's like, so again, a lot that with that violence and the addiction, and these energies being unplugged, like pulling out those roots and pulling them out within ourselves and pulling them out and having boundaries. But again, just something to really like, the article affirmations or mantras or a ceremony or, something to really conjure or anchor, or conversations with your friends, or even this for me, stating this out loud to all these people. I'm anchoring energy. And if you're in this energy with me, then we're anchoring it together. We're anchoring this conviction, this dedication, and this mission that we signed up for with these people to collapse at this time. We've heard the call, and we're bringing things back into unity by not shoving anything out, by not denying it or pretending it doesn't exist. No, we're going to air it. We're going to air it out. We're going to let it be there. We're going to voice it out loud. Or at least I am, and that energy, whoever's in this energy as well, we're anchoring this together. So remember last time I was like, we're putting our attention on the fairies, the Fae realm, and we're joining them together in consciousness. Now we're joining together in consciousness to unravel and to be disciplined with this energy. It's really intense. It's really, really, really intense. Again, it's like stopping a freight train. So let's see what comes out underneath this gorgeous sacrifice card. Is she holding a butterfly too? It looks like a butterfly, doesn't it? I can't really tell. Yeah, I think it's a butterfly. She's releasing a butterfly. When I read my cards for myself the next morning after that conflict, I had 3 or 4 rebirth symbols and completion. I had the completion card as well. And I was like, oh, it's already done. It's already done. It's already, it was such divine timing for all of this and that's where I feel something has really shifted in the field. And then with the X flare, at the end, after my son and I all are processing, and then we cleaned his house and, and prepared and we cleaned my yards because my house was already clean. But, it's like we shifted the energy. We brought it out into the physical, which also anchors it, right? Doing something in the physical to bring forward the energy. Now it's changed, now the weeds are gone, and now, his house is clean. And, again, so anchoring this energy. I think I was saying something else and I forgot. I was talking about the sacrifice. I don't know. Oh, the butterfly. Yeah, that's what it was. The cards and all the cards that I had around the transformation and the completion. And so it's already been anchored. It's already been anchored. This theme, this pattern has already been anchored. So however that applies for you in the collective field, there's huge amount of support. A change has been made. And there's goodness coming out of this, again, fortune and Lakshmi. So where am I at? 57 minutes. Oh, Man, I don't like to go over an hour. I might not. What do we get? Oh, the Three of Wands. Oh, that's beautiful. So a card of moving forward. Again, the wands, more fire. It's like you've done, oh, this is so beautiful. It's like you've done the work. You've already done the work, and there's nothing more to do. Now you're just waiting for your ships to come in. So there you are, you're on the shore, and they are coming in. So there's that fortune. There's like the reward. Again, the raven energy, the having the right to acquire more magic. You have more of your power. You have more of your access. You're just waiting for it to kind of flesh out in the physical. Yeah, so that's really beautiful. I'm going to end on kind of one of these cards here. Okay, let's see what we get here. Serenity. Yeah, serenity. That's a really beautiful message to end on. So after all of that upheaval, if you were in this freight train of an energy, this huge hot kundalini activating, shedding, intense, some of the rootiest of things energy. Now we're ending on this beautiful piece and this beautiful, oh, wait, hold on. I didn't read these on top of each other. Hold on. So the sacrifice in this, right. So just another thing. It's like, you sacrifice something, but there's something coming in. Yeah. It's something coming in and connected to the fortune and all this. And so here underneath the hollow bone and teachability and that completion energy is that serenity. So again, the best way to peace is to just surrender. And again, to look through that higher perspective, to allow that to bring you peace, to allow that to bring you that surrender so that these energies can move through you. And, if you're like me, I've been through so much and I've worked through so much of my shame and shadow that I'll still have stuff come up, like I still had some shame around my neighbors, but at the same time, it's like just releasing it again, letting it flow through, because it's like the work that some of us are doing on really deep levels, we're doing it for these people. That neighbor, she gets to just live her normal life and be a real estate agent or whatever she's doing and be like totally into the matrix, and she doesn't have to go into hell realm, and she can judge me for having loudness or having a conflict that's visible when everybody wants to keep it hidden, right? She can judge me for that or not. She might have felt much love and compassion. I have no idea. Kind of felt like a little bit of judgment, but that's fine. It's okay, because we know what we're doing here. We know the role that we have, and we know who we're doing it for and why we're doing it, right? And so to just do that work and to not leak energy on feeling like there's anything wrong with you, because we all came to play different roles. We all came to play different roles and to do different things. So if this reading is resonating for you, if you are, I know a lot of the hell divers, the shadow light workers, resonate with these readings, and if you're not, that still just intel about some of the collective movements that are going on, because it's always the hell divers and the shadow workers where like there's a small percentage of, because it's not fun work and not everybody can do that, and there is a lot of shame and all that, and not everybody gets through, and not everybody gets through to that completion, because you can stop yourself with self-hatred, or you can, again, where you can just sort of go into denial or into psychosis, because it's really, really intense work. But most of us that signed up to do this, at least at this point in human evolution, are completing, we're completing this stuff, and we are passing these initiations, and we're finding each other, and we're anchoring, again, the red and the roots, we're anchoring this energy together, and we're acknowledging that this is a very important part of, again, the wholeness, right? The wholeness, the more shadowy aspects, both in the really, really, really dark and evil ways, have been suppressed, but so has this work, and again, the shame and, going on antidepressants or whatever it is that some of us have done, but now owning the warrior nature that we have, to be able to collapse these programs, to access more magic, to bring these realms back online. So just a little bit of encouragement at the end there. If you've made it this far, then you're probably resonating with all of this, and you might have felt a bit of unrest and unease. It might have kicked up some of that past shame or some of that past self-abandonment, and just sharing this and sharing my story and my relationship to this energy openly and confidently, because I have found that love and serenity within myself, even if I have to do other rounds with it, again, the exfiller chunking off that which needs to go. So a whole other level of serenity and self-acceptance and flowing with the path that we're on, even though some paths are gnarlier than others. And so I commend you if you are a shadow light worker and you did just do a big piece. Thank you for your service. And my God, it was intense. Like I could weep right now. It was so intense what we just did. So thank you for the collaboration and for listening and for putting your consciousness here. And please feel free to share. Feel free to private message too. I don't do a lot on messaging in general. I'm not, because there's just like, I don't like to be on my phone a whole lot. But in terms of the readings or collaborating or anchoring energy that we just worked on, then I absolutely welcome that. And oh, I forgot to turn my notifications off and something just came in. Okay. Move. Yeah, there we go. But anyway, in terms of connecting and anchoring energy or having openness around it, always feel free to message if you want to, or you can comment, if you want to really be brave, so yeah, thank you for listening and for joining in consciousness. Yeah, and I'll see you next time. We'll see where we're at on the other side of this, how all of this settles, and I look forward to seeing what other people are saying about these energies, at least to the other people that I resonate with. Of course, there's a lot being said all the time, but on these deep alchemical levels, I look forward to seeing what Alora Hazel has to say next, and any of you that feel to share as well. Okay. All right. Much love. I'll see you next time.